Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Mrs. Dipali Bhandari, delighted to be introduced our second speaker, Mr. Ashok Avhad sir, who has warmly accepted our invitation to join us today. So, on behalf of Sir Dr. M.S. Gosavi, College of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Nasik, I welcome you, sir. Mr. Ashok Avhad sir is here to discuss on the topic process of generic product development in pharmaceutical industry. To briefly introduce about sir. Sir has
Uh,
pursued his MPharm in pharmaceutical chemistry with the second rank with the first rank from the AVCOP Sangamner from the SPPU. He qualified NIPER JEE 2018 with the AR rank 479 and GPAT 2017 with the All India rank 259. Sir has currently associated with the senior associate as a project management Freyr Solutions Hyderabad. He was associated as a executive project manager R&D and Cube Ethicals Private Limited Mumbai 2021 to March 2023. Also, he was associated as an R&D scientist, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Hyderabad. Sir has many awards and achievements. Some are listed over here. Water for Project Management and Agile Project Management courses, Project Management Institute in April 2021. Sir was associated with the Project Management Foundation teams May 2021, and he got the Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt Annexus Europe October 2020. Again, the zonal level winner in the university level scientific research project competition Avishkar 2015. He secured second rank in the poster presentation at National Conference on Emerging Trends in Drug Delivery Systems. Sir has associated with the budgeting and scheduling projects Sir work on the project on the synthesis and biological evaluation of the novel therapeutics for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease and effect of the acyclovir on inhibition of Xanthomonas exopodius punicae induced bacterial blight of pomegranate by using the different microbial inhibition assay. I welcome you, sir. Hand over to
So
you, sir.
thanks
Please
for
start the session.
yeah yeah thank you so much for warm welcome, ma'am. So as
Thank you, sir.
introduced by ma'am, I am Ashok, currently associated with Freyr Solution as a project manager, and I'm very excited and happy to deliver this webinar on process of generic product development in pharmaceutical industry. So guys, let me share my screen. Uh, Ma'am, can you just take my PPT on the screen?
Yes, sir.
So your screen is visible. You can just go on your PowerPoint presentation. Yes, it's visible, sir.
Uh, Hope my
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
PPT is visible. Yeah.
Yes, it is
Yes,
visible.
yes.
So, yeah. So today's topic is generic product development in pharmaceutical industry. Under this topic, I will explain you like what are the generic product, how the generic are important and comparable with the innovator of the brand product or the branded medicines, and then what are the differences that we are having between them, and the process of pharmaceutical development for the generic medicines. So let me start. So first, like what is mean by the generic medicine? So generic medicines are same as the already marketed brand name drug in dosage form, safety, strength, route of administration, quality, performance characteristics, and intended use. In simple language, for example, there is a branded drug as a tablet form with 500 mg of strength, for example, paracetamol. So, the generic of that particular drug will be similar in dosage form, that is, mean it will be a tablet. It is as safe as that branded medicine. It will be 500 mg only. Route of administration will be same as the branded drug, which means that we are going to take orally. Even it is like the route of administration for branded drug as well as for generic drug will be same. It will match the quality parameters as that of branded drug, and it intended use or the therapeutic use of generic drug would be same as that of branded drug. It means there is zero difference between the branded drug and the generic drug. So this is the basic definition of generic medicine. So like what exactly differs between the branded medicine and the generic medicine? So the most important criteria is bioequivalence. So bioequivalence, like most of us are aware of bioequivalence, it means that both medicine, like for example, A medicine is a branded medicine, B medicine is the generic medicine. The effect or the effect for the treatment produced by the branded medicine is equivalent to the generic medicine, or vice versa. It's called as a bioequivalence. In pharmaceutical terminologies, the dosage form or the medicine that gives the similar bioavailability is called as a bioequivalent product. So it means the generic medicine work as the same way in the clinical benefits, like for curing the disease or for curing like in the treatment of disease, as same as that of branded medicine. But what exactly make a difference for generic medicine and branded medicine? That is the pricing. The branded medicine has higher price than the generic medicine. If you see on my screen, there is a picture which mentions that generic medicine is of 25 rupees and branded medicine is of 85 rupees. So, what exactly was happening earlier? So, initially, when the pharmaceutical field was evolving, there was no terminology or the no way to make a generic medicine. Every company they have to like file their NDA, a new drug application to FDA, and then have to get approval to sell the medicine in US market. So there is no law, or there is no benefits that generic medicine can be made and sell into the US market. At that time, the revolution happened in the medical field, and there is an incorporation of Hatch-Waxman Act 1984, which is also called as Drug Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act 1984. So, what exactly this act means? So, before 1984, for example, any company has to sell their medicine into the US market. They have to go through the all the studies that is required for the new drug development, which I will explain in my next slides to you. But after incorporation of Generic Medicine Act or Hatch-Waxman Act 1984, there are the provisions given to the pharmaceutical industries to develop and sell the generic medicine which is having the same value, same effect on the patient, but at lower price. So the importance, like the main motto of my this presentation or this webinar is like, you first shall understand what is exactly means the generic medicines, whether generic medicines are safe or not as that of branded medicines, and how they are different from the branded medicine, and how or who is ensuring that generic medicines are equal or same to that of branded medicine. So there are some questions I have put it here in terms of understanding the terminologies. So, like, why branded medicines are higher in price? So, branded medicines are higher in price because there it has taken a lot of efforts, time, and cost for development of the branded medicines. I will explain you the cycle of branded medicine development in my upcoming slides. But just for the understanding purpose, it is called as a new drug. Like the drug is not available in market for any time, and that company or that pharmaceutical industry is developing that medicine first time in the world, and then they are filing it to the USA FDA for approval. So this process approximately takes 10 to 12 years on the traditional uh, drug discovery and drug development process, and it is taking approximately 1 to 2 billions of dollars to develop the medicines. We can just imagine like how much of crores in INR it takes to develop the branded medicine. That is why to recover those charges or recover those expenses from selling the medicines, that's the reason these branded medicines are higher on the price. If we see the development cost, or like for example, if I say a raw material or packaging material cost for branded medicine, like in my previous slide I have mentioned that, like for example, branded medicine is of 85 rupees. So the cost of making that 85 rupees strip might be hardly 2 rupees, 3 rupees, max 5 to 10 rupees. But the price behind this is because of the efforts, times, and the cost that is spent by pharmaceutical industry on development of branded medicines. That's why the branded medicines are higher in the price. The next question is, what is mean by innovator? So innovator mean the company who discovers and makes the branded medicines are called as innovator. I mentioned this terminology here because I'm going to use as an like this innovator terminology in my upcoming slides or during the presentation. So for example, a Pfizer is the company who discovers the branded medicine. So they are called as an innovator. Then, how innovator recover the cost of branded medicine development? So, innovator protects their right via patent and exclusivities. There is an provision to file your patent of your innovation. For example, a Pfizer, they are developing, for example, XYZ medicine, and they developed it. They are filing the patent of that XYZ medicine, and none of the other company can make that medicine for next 20 years from the date of filing of the patent. And within that period of time, that innovator will be the king of that particular sales segment, and they can sell that medicine at the particular price, and they will recover their expenses spent on their R&D, spent on their clinicals within that 20 years of time of patent. So that's why the branded medicine cost is higher, and their expenses will be recovered by protecting their rights by patent and the exclusivities. The patent and exclusivities is the another chapter which is more into the details. We will not discuss that here, but on like a mota term, it is the protection to the pharmaceutical industries who develop the branded medicines. Now, the question is coming, why need for the generic medicines? So, if you see the medicine cost, if we go to the pharmacy and see the medicine cost is higher for the branded medicine. As I shown as an example in my last slide, that one strip of generic medicine it is of 25 rupees, and another strip of branded medicine is of 85 rupees. So now there are the people, they can't afford the 85 rupees medicine, and then the government or the US FDA, they felt somewhere that there is a need for the lowering the prices of the medicines, but they cannot directly go to the innovator company or the pharmaceutical company who develop the branded medicine and ask them, you reduce the prices, because they have spent a lot of money to develop or to discover that medicine. So they introduced this act that I mentioned, Drug Price Control and Patent Term Restoration Act, or the Hatch-Waxman Act in 1984, and given a provision to make a generic medicine which can be developed at lower cost and can be made available to common people, to the normal people of the society at lower price than the branded medicine. So hope you understood exactly what are the branded medicine, why they are on the higher price, and why there is a need to make a generic medicines. So let me share my screen with the processes, like what exactly makes a difference for this costing. So if you see the process of branded medicine development, the upper side one is the process of branded medicine development or the new drug development. So there will be a discovery phase. Like we will, as in my introduction, I have worked on the project which are most like related to drug discovery. So here in the drug discovery phase, the pharmaceutical company or this the research institute who actually works on the drug discovery part, or the pharmaceutical chemistry scientist or the chemistry scientist, biological scientists, they work to identify the lead molecule. Like for example, there is a disease, there is Alzheimer disease, there is no treatment available for Alzheimer disease. So this company discover the molecule which can be act as a drug to treat the Alzheimer disease. And in discovery phase, they goes with the biological evaluation of those molecules. There will be in vitro testing will be performed to prove the effect of that particular molecule against the disease. So it will be completely in vitro testing. And after having that in vitro result and preclinical studies, actually there is a change. This IND submission will be after preclinical studies. So the research community or the research scientist of that pharmaceutical industry goes for the preclinical studies, and preclinical studies are those which performed on the animals. So after having the positive result for the animal studies, that pharmaceutical industry submits their IND to the US FDA. That IND is called as an investigational new drug application. It means they have some molecule which can be able to treat the Alzheimer disease, and they are submitting that application to US FDA that we found this molecule and this molecule can be a drug in future for the Alzheimer disease, and we now want to conduct the clinical trials. So after filing the IND, they develop the formulation. Either it can be a tablet, capsule, syrups, or any kind of dosage form. And then they conduct the clinical trial on human to to check and prove the effect or the efficacy, safety of that particular molecule on the human. So there are multiple phases of clinical trial. It is from phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. These are the three major phases. So I'll not go into the details, but in this particular clinical development, there will be a lot of things are happening to prove this particular new molecule as a medicine against the Alzheimer disease. So there will be a adverse reaction reporting, there will be a side effects reporting, there will be a safety updates reporting to the US FDA during clinical development. So it is a phase of molecule where the complete profile or the complete characteristics of that particular drug has been analyzed on the human, and then the results of clinical trial is filed to the US FDA as a new drug application. So that is called as NDA submission. And then FDA views that data of from the drug discovery to the clinical for that particular NDA or the applications of pharmaceutical industry for the branded medicine, and then based upon the FDA's review, they give approvals to that branded medicine. So this complete cycle is takes conventional in conventional process. It takes approximately 10 to 20, 20 years, and the development cost for this new drug is approximately 1 to 2 billion US dollar. So it is huge cost, huge time investment by the pharmaceutical industries to develop the branded medicine. Now, how the generic medicine development process is different from the branded medicine. So in this, we skip the drug discovery part, we skip the preclinical studies because we have a molecule that is, we called it as an API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is on a place. And we just have to make the formulation. We have to go for the few minor studies, and we can file that ANDA to the US FDA. So it means the major difference between the branded medicine and general medicine is we skip the clinical trial. We skip the discovery phase. Like there is no efforts required by the generic player for developing the generic as compared to the branded medicine. So there will be only a formulation development will happen. There will be some studies like stability studies or bioequivalence studies, because as I said, bioequivalence is must to develop the generic medicine. So you will develop a formulation, you will assure that that formulation is stable, and then you will ensure the bioequivalence, like my generic developed medicine is equivalent to that of branded medicine that is developed by some company on Alzheimer disease, and you will submit that application to the US FDA, which is called as ANDA, abbreviated new drug application. It is called as abbreviated because we are not going for the clinical studies in development of generic medicine. Then FDA will review your data and then will give you the approval for selling the generic medicine. So if you see the difference, the costing that is required for developing the branded medicine is approximately 1 to 2 billion, where the development cost for generic medicine it is 2 to 3 million, which means it is approximately even not 10% of that of cost that is required to develop the branded medicine. So for example, the I'll give two examples. The Pfizer, who is the innovator. Now, I am using innovator term because they are developing the branded medicine. So Pfizer, they are developing the branded medicine, and they required expenses of 1,000 rupees, for example, to develop complete this process. where generic medicine can be developed by any company or any generic player. For example, Dr. Reddy's, they develop it at 10 rupees price or max 100 rupees price. So the costing and the time that is required for branded medicine and generic medicine is there is a huge difference. That's why prices of generic medicines are lower than the branded medicines. And in detail, if I'll go again, so how they are comparable? Like for example, how branded medicine is similar to the generic medicines. So they are similar in labeling. If you see the label of generic medicine and the branded medicine, they are same. There might be a small changes, but you need to keep labeling constant for both. Like if for example, a drug that is developed or discovered by Pfizer, it has some particular label, and Dr. Reddy's they are developing the generic. So that label of Dr. Reddy's medicine should be similar to that of Pfizer's label. Then chemistry. Chemistry, it is in terms of your API and the excipients. So the API or the active pharmaceutical ingredient that available or that is present in your innovator product or innovator medicine or branded medicine should be similar in generic medicine. Then the manufacturing. So manufacturing process, manufacturing parameter should be similar to that of branded medicine when you are developing a generic medicine. Controls. So process control parameters, also the quality control parameters should be similar between the branded medicine and generic medicine. Then the microbiological profile. The microbiological testing should be similar as compared to the branded medicine. Even for the finished product testing, there are, after manufacturing the drug, there will be lot of testing happen before releasing that particular medicine into the market. So that testing should be similar. Like for example, there are 10 tests for the branded medicine. That 10 tests should be included into the generic medicines testing procedure. Animals Animal studies will be happen for branded medicine. Sometimes it happens for the generic, sometimes it is not required. The major difference is clinical study. So clinical study is must while developing the branded medicine. Clinical study is not required when you develop the generic medicine. So that is the major difference. As I explained the process is particularly or the basic importance that we need to look into this particular difference of branded and generic medicine is the expenses and the time that is required to develop the branded medicine and the expenses and time that is required to develop the generic medicines. That makes the actual difference in the costing. But as I said, the Pfizer company, they are working on developing a drug for the Alzheimer disease. They are spending their lot of time, they are spending their lot of expenses on R&D, on the clinical to develop that particular drug product. So to recover that costing or to recover that expenses, there is a provision that they can protect their innovation through the patent and exclusivity so that no other company can make a generic medicine or the similar medicine for that particular 20 years of time unless and until that patent get expired, so that they can recover their expenses and the cost they spent on the development. So now, as I said, the generic medicines are equal to the branded medicine, right? And also, there is no zero difference between both of them in terms of therapeutic action or therapeutic equivalence. It means like sometimes in people are still hesitating taking a generic medicine. For example, there is a branded medicine available in market. Doctor prescribes a branded medicine or the brand medicine to the patient. Patient go to the medical shop. They ask for the medicine, and at that time, shopkeepers or the pharmacist, I will say, not shopkeeper, it is not the exact word, but the pharmacist, He says like, we don't have this branded medicine, we have an alternate generic medicine for this. And at that time that patient says, no, doctor prescribed us this medicine, we want that only. It is not like that. There is an option like from where the common people or the all people can afford that medicine. That's why this generic medicine concept has been introduced in 1984 through the Hatch-Waxman Act or the uh, Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act. So, like, I want to tell throughout these three slides is that generic medicines are safe, they are equivalent as compared to the branded medicine. There is zero difference between the therapeutic use of branded medicine and generic medicine. So do not hesitate taking the generic medicine, replacing the branded medicine when you are going through the any treatment or any prescription from the doctors. And I have also explained the process, how the branded medicine process is, development process is, and how the generic medicine development process, and what are the differences. Now, I am saying generic medicines are safe. Of course, it is yes. Everyone now will say all the generic medicine are safe because Ashok said it is safe. It is equivalent. But who will ensure? Am I going to ensure that generic medicines are safe? No, because in world, or for example, I'm talking for the US now. The US people, they will not say like, this is said by Ashok, and now we are going to take the generic medicines. But this is assured by US FDA, the controlling body of US, who assures their society or their people that the medicines that this company is selling as a generic, an alternative to the branded medicine at lower price, is safe. Because of why? Because they ensure that they are pharmaceutically equivalent. FDA, like while filing the ANDA, as I said, there are three applications majorly submitted to the US FDA. I'll discuss that again later, but just to understand, that is ANDA that we are submitting for the generic medicine approval, that contains data which mentions that we have the same dosage form that of the innovator. We have the same drug release pattern to that of the innovator product. Now I am using the innovator product. Innovator product, it means it is the branded medicine. But in research terminology, it is called as an innovator product. So same in dosage form, it means that innovator is tablet. So generic medicine or the generic product I am having is tablet. It is having the same release pattern. For example, that is an immediate release. Then mine product is also immediate release. If that is an extended release, mine product is an extended release. If that product is a SR tablet, I am having the SR tablet. This means the FDA ensures that this product is pharmaceutically equivalent. The next is the manufacturer's capability of making drug correctly. Now, for example, the innovator product is developed by Pfizer. I would like to explain this point with the help of example. For example, the innovator product or the branded medicine is developed by Pfizer. Dr. Reddy's is the generic company working on or developing the generic medicine for that particular product that is developed by Pfizer. Now, who will ensure that Dr. Reddy's is consistently and correctly producing the medicine as that of that Pfizer? So, there are the options. FDA will ask you to have your data of manufacturing process, your manufacturing controls in your application, that is ANDA, that you are submitting to US FDA. And by reviewing that process and data, they ensures that you are making the generic medicine by the same process. There might be a small changes in the process, but the major procedure will be similar. And another thing is the FDA inspection. You might have heard the word FDA is coming for the audit. So that is the reason FDA comes for the auditing the pharmaceutical industries, because they ensures that you are making the drug as that of the branded medicine and as that of the process that you are submitted to us into the ANDA. So there are a lot of terms like, as I mentioned here, the PFC or pre-facility correspondence. I'll not explain because that again will go into the detail. But my the more motto of explaining this is like FDA is ensuring that whatever the generic medicine that you are taking is safe, because we are going to the manufacturing plant ensuring that they are making the generic medicine correctly. Now, the next is active ingredient, API. The active pharmaceutical ingredient that is in the innovator product of Pfizer will be similar to that of Dr. Reddy's. So, when Dr. Reddy's is making generic medicine, they will ensure that if there is a paracetamol, they will use the paracetamol API. If there is a tretinoin API, they are using the tretinoin API here. The vendor can be different. For example, some Pfizer is producing by themselves, and for example, Dr. Reddy's is taking or purchasing that API from some other company. So in that case, how FDA ensures that API is same in terms of chemistry, manufacturing, and control. It means that API is same in structure, as we know the pharmaceutical chemistry structure. So it should be same in the structure. Manufacturing process might be different or might be same. There are the testing procedure for the API. So all the CMC data of API is submitted by the API manufacturing company to the US FDA, which is called as DMF. So we need to submit the part of the DMF, or we need to mention the DMF, like we have used the API of this particular company and referring to their DMF number. Also, how FDA ensures that API is same. Like for example, Pfizer has used paracetamol. Now, how they will ensure that Dr. Reddy's is using the paracetamol? So it is by Q1. The data, composition data. FDA asks for the composition data. There are the terminologies used in pharmaceutical industry for the development of generic medicines called as Q1, Q2 development, and the facility inspection. So by all this, like I would say, the checkpoints, FDA ensures that active ingredient is same in both the formulations of product of both the company. Then bioequivalence, as I mentioned, both should be bioequivalent. So generic company need to perform the bioequivalence studies while developing the generic medicine. Bioequivalence studies are developed or performed on the human, but they are very different from the clinical studies. Clinical studies, there are three major phases for the clinical studies. As I mentioned, it takes a lot of time, 6 to 9 years for the clinical development. But PK studies or the bioequivalence studies are shorter in timeline. They are very shorter in timeline. That might be just 3 months, 6 months, max to max 1 year of studies. So the costing and time required to perform the bioequivalence study is very low compared to the clinical studies. This factor actually makes the lower pricing for the generic medicine. So how FDA ensures that it is a bioequivalent? So FDA, while submitting your ANDA, you need to submit the bioequivalence data or the your study data to the US FDA, and then US FDA review that data in comparison with your ANDA, the NDA data that is submitted by Pfizer for the Dr. Reddy's application, and then they check like whether your parameter are matching with the innovator drug parameter. If it is matching, then only they approve your product as a generic medicine. Then another thing is inactive ingredients. So sometimes inactive ingredients needs to be same. Sometimes it is not. So FDA checks like the inactive ingredients used by Pfizer and inactive ingredient used by Dr. Reddy's are same or not. If it is not same, if Dr. Reddy's has used some another kind of inactive ingredient, at that time US FDA asks them that whether you have replaced this particular inactive ingredient or excipient in your formulation, give us the safety data. So if FDA like satisfies with the safety data of that inactive ingredient, then they will only give the approval for the generic medicine. Then the stability, as you know, like we perform the stability studies. Stability studies are the requirement for the innovator product, even for the generic product. But your product should have the stability throughout the shelf life that you are mentioning. For example, you are mentioning shelf life of your dosage form for 2 years of your product. Then you should have that data. Within 2 years of period, my product is not getting degraded. There are no impurities are developing into my generic product. So you need to submit the stability data to the US FDA to ensure that your medicine is safe for the shelf life that you mention on your label, or that is mentioned like you are mentioning to the patient, or we would say in simple language as an expiry date. Before expiry, that medicine should be safe. Then container and storage, the container and storage should be similar as that of the branded medicine that is developed by Pfizer. FDA checks that as well. So while submitting your ANDA, there will be data, safety data available for the container and storage. Then labels. So labels should be similar for innovative product and the generic product. As I mentioned, there might be a small differences, but not major. So now FDA has that assurance that these medicines are safe. That's why we should not hesitate. FDA is ensuring that generic medicines are safe. They are viewing the data, each and every data at minute level, and then only giving approval to sell them into the market. Now, regulatory aspects of generic medicine. I'll quickly go through this. So, as I mentioned, there are different type of applications to the US FDA. These are the few, like these are the major applications that will be submitted to FDA. So, first is IND application, which is called as investigational new drug application. It is submitted to US FDA before the clinical studies. Like we discover the drug, we have the preclinical trials, and then we submit that IND application to seek an approval to conduct the clinical trials, that is called as IND application. The another application is NDA, which is after the clinical trials, which contains the result of clinical trial or the result or the data of clinical trials, and we ask FDA, now we have this drug safe and efficacious in the human. We have conducted the clinical trials. Now give us approval to sell it into the market. Then third is the ANDA application. So ANDA application is for the generic product. So where we are not conducting the clinical trials, but we are skipping the clinical trials, we are ensuring the bioequivalence to the branded drug, that is called as the ANDA. So our main focus will be on the ANDAs. Then there are other applications for the biological product and OTC medicines. I will not discuss those into the details. So our focus will be on the ANDA because that is application for the generic drug development. So there are again a process like now the innovator product, for example, Pfizer, they have protected their medicine for 12 years. They have protected their medicine for 20 years through the patent and exclusivities, for example. Now, Pfizer have now got an approval to sell the medicine, and that patent is valid up to 2040. So, no company can make a medicine up to 2040 unless and until that patent get expired. So, there are the provision or there are the pathways for developing the generic medicine. So the first is para 1. So para 1 means there is no patent available. Some innovative company, they develops a drug and they are not protecting their right or the patent, then anyone can come and develop a generic medicine. Para 2, where there is a patent for that particular drug, but that patent has expired. For example, someone has filed patent 20 years ago in 2004, and now that patent is expired in 2024. At the time, multiple player can enter and they can develop and get approval for the generic medicine. Then the para 4. In that case, patent is not expired. At that time, for example, this patent is going to expire in 2030. Now, I am the generic company. I am working on developing the generic medicine, but I can sell or I can get an approval from FDA to sell that medicine into market only after 2030. And there is the another para, most important, the way to develop the generic medicine is para 4. Here, patent is not expired. For example, as I said, the first example, the patent is going to expire on 2040. I am a generic player who developing the generic medicine, but I can't wait until the 2040. I have some data, some expertise there that I can say, like the innovation of that first company, for example, Pfizer, who patented this innovation and protected their rights till 2040 is not valid, or they are protecting their right, like protecting their process or the composition in the patent. I have not infringed their patent, and I'm challenging them in the court that your patent, it is either invalid or I have not infringed your patent, and in that case, even we can get an approval for the generic medicine before the expiry of their patent. So, for example, if I file the product via Para 4, I am a company, I am a generic company challenging Pfizer that your patent is invalid or I have not infringed your patent. So, I can get an approval before the expiry, that is before 2040, and I can sell my product into the US market. And in that case, I get an opportunity or the exclusivity from the US FDA that for next 180 days or the 6 month, only Ashok company who developed the generic medicine can sell the product into the market. So hope you have understood the different kind of applications, and like how the generic application or the generic drug application filed to the USFDA and what are the different paras to develop the generic medicine. So I have like mentioned just for the as an example, like who are the innovator companies in the world and who are the generic companies. So these are the only few examples, like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson and Johnson, Roche. There are a lot of companies. They are working on developing the branded medicine. They are still pending. They are still developing the new drugs on the treatment of novel diseases, existing diseases where there is no treatment available. There are still diseases where complete treatment is not available. So these companies are developing a drug, they are conducting the clinical trials. The drugs are getting failed into the phase 3 clinical trials as well. The last stage of the clinical studies. They again starts and they again start it from the initial, trying to get like why exactly it is failing into the clinical trials. And there are the other players, those are like the generic. They are copying the medicines of the innovators and developing that for the lowest prices to the people as a generic medicine. So there are the companies, the Indian companies are like they are the legends in the generic world, and there are a lot of companies in India who develop the generic medicine. So, like I'm explaining this as I'm delivering this to the graduate and postgraduate students. So they should understand like where we have the scope for the career development. So there are the scope, like you can either join such a kind of companies who work on the new developments. So you can be a chemical scientist, you can be a biological scientist, you can be a doctor or the clinical person who takes part into the clinical development. And in terms of generic, you should have knowledge of pharmaceutical development, like how formulation development happens, how that can be analyzed, how the PK studies can be performed, and regulatory knowledge to get approval for generic medicine. So now this is the overall aspect that I mentioned, like how this branded medicine or the innovator product are different from the generic medicine, but how they are similar also. They are similar in terms of use. They are different in terms of development process and the costing timeline of the time required to develop the branded medicine and generic medicine is huge. Hope you people have understood the difference as well as the similarities. But at the end, generic medicine is as equivalent to that of branded medicine. Now, I will explain you short, in very short, how the process of generic product development happens. As I mentioned, we need to submit ANDA to US FDA to get an generic product approval for the US market. And there are different paras also I mentioned, like when they put that particular product is patented or protected with patent. If it is not, para 4, I explain those. Now, this is the actual process for the generic product development in pharmaceutical industry. And I'm going to link this process with the departments and how you can seek your career opportunities in these departments. Like what kind of department is involved into what kind of process at what kind of stage, and how you can see like where is your like the area for your career development or the area for choosing your career. So these are the stages. I'll go one by one with the stages, and like I'll try to explain how you can, like what kind of people or what kind of department from pharmaceutical industry is involved into that particular stage. So the first stage is market analysis. For example, now there is a innovator medicine or the branded medicine that is selling into the market, and there is no other generic medicine available. At that time, I would see like there is a chance for me to develop that generic medicine. But as I said, the India is hub for the generic pharmaceutical companies. There are a lot of companies in the world who are developing the generic medicine, and there is a lot of competition. So in that case, for example, there is a diclofenac gel 1%, which is used to treat the pain. So at that time, we need to research the market. We need to do the market research. Whether if I develop a generic product as a diclofenac gel 1%, whether I can able to get a money from that particular medicine, or it is a common, like there are a lot many players are available and there is no market or the no sales volume available for me in the US. So there is a stage which is called as a market analysis, which happen at very initial, where that particular market analysis team, they estimate the sales volume. For example, the estimates, like for example, if I develop this generic medicine, how much of sale I'm going to have in next 5 years into the US, how much revenue my company is going to make in that particular period of time, how many players they are working on the same generic medicine development, and like how I can make my medicine before them and launch it into the US market so that I can earn the money. So this kind of activities will be done by market analysis team in pharmaceutical industry. It is called as portfolio management, business development, because it is different from industry to industry, but this is the particular area looked by these people. And there is the another department, you might be knowing this department, which is called as IPR. This department plays an important role at this stage, because this department help people to know the internal team or this market analysis people. They help to know them that whether this drug or this medicine you are going to develop as generic medicine is protected with the patents or not. They do the patent search for that particular molecule, that particular processes. Every aspect will be looked by this team, which is called as intellectual property rights department, and they help this portfolio or the business development team or market analysis team that okay, this medicine is not protected. For example, this medicine is protected by patent up to 2030. So go for the strategy. If you are going to, like for example, now there is a patent available. So there are two paras only open. One is para 3, that is we can either develop a medicine, file to the US FDA and get a approval after that patent get expired. But by that time, there might be a competitor player. They develop before you and get into the market, and then what is the use of your development? So you need to look, like this department look into the all these aspects, and IPA department help them to understand whether they have to go with the para 4, whether like what are the challenges for going for the para 4, how many players they are there developing the generic medicine and can be competitive for this para 4. So this all kind of analysis done at the market analysis stage. Then once they are finding like, okay, now diclofenac gel 1%, we have to develop, our company is going to develop that diclofenac gel 1% as a generic medicine. Then that that particular information they will percolate to the R&D team, and at that time all the R&D functions, including formulation, analytical, regulatory, IPR, clinical department, non-clinical departments, procurement people, they develop they check the feasibility in terms of, like for example, now they said you have to make the diclofenac gel 1%, which we have to launch in 2027. If we delayed it by 2028, then the another company is going to get a approval before us, and there will be no market share for us because it is a competitive market. So in that case, these people, the R&D functions, they checks, like for example, formulation person, he checks like what kind of, they search for the literatures whether they are able to develop the formulation or not. The analytical department, they checks for the methodologies, the available data of that particular formulations, whether they can able to do this project. Similarly, regulatory aspects will be checked. Also the procurement, for example, there is a raw material and packaging material required for this particular generic product, whether they can able to bring that material. They check like whether such a kind of vendors are available or not, and that is called as feasibility check. Once they check, now okay, we can develop a formulation, we can make this sorted out in order to launch our product by 2027. In that case, then this product is getting approved by the pharmaceutical company's management. If we R&D says okay, then management say okay, now you can start developing the product. And at that time we need to go for the proof of concept. Now there we need to develop some kind of one formulation, and we need to check it whether that formulation is equivalent to that of branded medicine or not. And once we have that proof of concept, then we actually start for the generic development or the generic product development process. So now, what is the guidance? Now, like for example, Pfizer has diclofenac gel 1% as their branded medicine. Now, I am a company as a generic medicine or generic pharmaceutical company. How I will know that how to develop this medicine? Like what way I should use, whether I have to go for the bioequivalence studies or not, whether I have to go for any kind of other studies or not. So for that reason, FDA has a provision. They have published their draft guidances, product specific draft guidances on the US FDA site. We can check, for example, my product is diclofenac gel 1%. So I will search for the draft guidance to the US FDA, and in that draft guidance FDA help us guiding to develop this medicine, like what kind of studies I need to perform, what kind of studies will be involved. So that all kind of information will be available in the draft guidance. So we will take a reference of draft guidance and will start development of our product. There is another option, like for example, draft guidance is not available. In that case, we will go for the pre-NDA meeting with FDA. We submit some formulation trials to the US FDA mentioning that this is our formulation and we want to have a meeting with you, whether we are going by the right way for the generic development or not. And once you get a confirmation in the pre-NDA meeting from the FDA, at that time, you will start your development on the generic product. Then another option, there are the requirement like Q1, Q2 requirement, specifically in terms of injectable topical formulations. Even Q3 requirement. This the Q1, Q2, Q3, the approach, what approach you have to choose, it is mentioned into this product specific guidance. So product specific guidance helps you to help you to identify the development strategy for your generic medicine. So you can do the literature search to find out like what composition is there into the branded medicine of Pfizer. Then what is the composition? Like for example, there are five excipient, one API. So you know the what is the API name. Also, you understood the name of the inactive ingredients as well. In that case, your difference with that particular branded medicine or the diclofenac gel 1% of Pfizer should not be very much. The composition difference should not be. Hello. So difference should not be too much. So in that case, you go for the control correspondence and get a confirmation from FDA on your composition. Then you start the, so here in this phase, the FR&D department, reverse engineering people who identify the composition of branded medicine, they check what are the excipients and API are there into the your branded medicine, and they try to find out the composition. So once you get a control correspondence confirmation from the FDA, then you can start for the procurement procedures where you can procure your raw material, packaging material. This function will be done by strategic sourcing. Then you go for the actual product development, which is called as product prototype development. This prototype development will be done by formulation R&D, analytical R&D, packaging development, and DQA. These are the functions who involved into this process. The next will be the scale up, where you will be having the large scale batches, or the at R&D you are having very small batches, but at plant level you need to manufacture larger scale batches. So in that case, this FR&D, AR&D, technology transfer, or the analytical method transfer validation teams are involved into this stage. Then validation and ordering of the material. So now your product is going to the plant, from R&D to the manufacturing plant. Technology transfer has happened. Like for example, you are making 10 gram of batch at R&D. Now you are making the 1000 kilo of batch into the plant. You got that process, of the process scale up happened. So in that case, this function will be done by FR&D team, procurement team, and the packaging team. Then your material will be tested at our plant, of the manufacturing plant, by the QC team. Hello. 5 मिनिट मध्ये conclude. Then you develops the exhibit batches of that particular product in the plant, and then you go for the stability studies, as well as the other bio studies that I mentioned, to prove the bioequivalence, and that can be done by clinical team and CROs. And then we submit our ANDA to the US FDA. Then US FDA reviews your ANDA. They issue you the queries if there are any, and based on your responses to your queries and fulfillment of data requirement, they approve you the generic medicine. And then after approving your generic medicine, there will be, if you are going to change anything, then that will be comes under the post approval changes, and the PV studies will happen once your product is in market. So in that phase, patient complaints, reporting of side effects will be happening by the PVT for your product. So these are the opportunities in pharmaceutical industry with respect to different processes. So at the conclusion of this session, hope you people have understood what is the concept of generic medicine, whether can we use generic medicine to an alternative to the branded medicine, like then why generic medicines are safe as that of branded medicine. also how companies develop their generic medicines, and how companies balances their business and regulatory standards for generic development. So that is all brief about today's session. Hope you people have understood the concept of generic product development, why there is a need. So that is all. If you have any question, you can reach out to me. I'll share this
Yes.
slide with the team, and you can. I have mentioned my email ID. You can share your queries on that email.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. There are some questions from the delegates. Shraddha Godke ma'am is asking, sir, is there any risk to get a generic medicines and how to identify the generic medicines?
So, branded medicines are given with the proprietary name. For example, Crocin, it is a branded name. I'm just giving an example. The generic medicines, they have the API name in on their label. For example, as I mentioned, uh, diclofenac gel 1%. If it is mentioned, then it is a generic medicine. You can ask pharmacist whether it is a generic or it is not. But at the scientific level, if we have to check, you can go onto the US FDA's Orange Book site. You can check for that medicine and you can search like what are the generic medicines those are available in US. I'm talking about the US. In India, you need to ask to the pharmacist.
Sir, second question, Priyal Son is asking, sir, why super specialists prescribe the branded medicines and not support the generic drugs?
Yeah, that is why. That is the reason why awareness about the generic medicine is important, and central government of India has given like the provision to open the generic medicines shop. So that is why actually they are prescribing, because there is a advantage of doctors. They might have some commission, they might have some other kind of sales incentive or a kind of their advantage from prescribing the branded medicine. They can prescribe the generic
Yes.
medicine. There should not be a problem prescribing the generic medicine.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And the next and the last question from the Sakshi Vani, sir. She's asking how to decide on a suitable, sir, right? How to decide on a suitable innovator drug for the bioequivalent studies.
So it is not a, I would say it is not a correct question, because it should not be a suitable innovator. Innovator is only one who developed the new drug. So there is an innovator, and you have to perform the bioequivalence study against that innovator only. Yeah, sometimes, for example, innovator got discontinued and there is another generic available. In that case, FDA gives an tag to that second generic as an authorized generic, and you can use that authorized generic to perform the bioequivalence studies. But
Okay.
there should not be any suitable kind of innovator. It is the one who developed the new drug.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. PPT. Hmm? Thank you so much, Ashok sir, for sharing your expertise and making an enriching experience for the today's session. Sir has explained very useful information about the generic product development, also its process in medicines. which involves the creating and manufacturing the pharmaceuticals that are equivalent to the brand name drugs. Sir has also emphasized on the comprehensive research, formulation, clinical trials, and the regulatory approval. He has given the information and examples of the Dr. Reddy's and Pfizer for better understanding that how the innovator and generic drugs or the medicines are differentiated. I want to express my sincere gratitude for the incredible webinar presentation you delivered, sir. You made the session enjoyable and informative. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I now request for to accept this online certificate as a token of appreciation. Thank you so much, sir. All the delegates are requested to join the third session. The link will be provided in the WhatsApp group. Thank you all.